All the characters in the story are over 18 years old. I waited impatiently because time was passing so slowly. Why? When a person wanted time to hurry up, did it seem that the opposite was happening? I went around my house again, checking for the hundredth time to make sure everything was in its place, clean and dusty. God, I was so nervous. In the 20 years I've been away from home, I've had only minimal contact with my sister Carrie. She was only 5 when her older brother, passed away from her life. Now, when she is only 25, she said that she needs to stay somewhere after the divorce from the dog. I was a career soldier, and now I've retired. My life since I took the oath has taken me to several countries and to 2 short marriages. The type of marriage that was wrong from the very beginning. Like, I should have known better. I will not talk about what I did in the army. Marriages that I will agree to if asked. After retiring, I moved to the upper part of Lower Michigan. Very rural area. Neighbors can be both close and miles away from each other. Mine weren't close. I joined the army a week before I graduated from high school. I left home and wanted to get away from everything in the small town I grew up in, including my parents. They were very conservative Christians, prone to condemnation and control. I couldn't wait to get out from under their influence. My parents pushed me away as much as I pushed myself away. On the other hand, my younger sister was just collateral damage. I never wanted to hurt her, but in order to see her, I had to talk to my parents, or rather my father. Due to various business trips abroad over the years and my stubborn nature when it came to communicating with my parents, it was easy to lose contact with my younger sister. She was only 5 the last time I saw her, with a runny nose full of freckles and fiery red pigtails. I felt her tears on my shoulder when I said goodbye for the last time. "I miss you already, Petey," she said with tears in her eyes. Her words were muffled as she buried her face in my shoulder. "When are you coming home?" "I do not know, little bear, but if you ever need me, just let me know. I promise that if I can, I will do everything in my power to help you." I swore. "Anything?" "What is it?" she asked. "Yes, anything. Do you swear by your little finger?" "What is it?" she asked, holding out her little finger to me. "Of course, Buxom," I said, as we joined our fingers in an ancient sibling pact. From that day on, we lost any direct contact until I received a short letter from Carrie informing me of her graduation from high school. In her letter, she explained how much she still misses me and how she just wants to hug her older brother again. The photo that was attached was from her senior portraits. By that time, she had already turned into a beautiful woman. Her hair was long, lush and wavy, and still very red. Her face was still covered with freckles, but they had faded somewhat from her little girlish face. I fell in love with her again when this connection from my past opened up. But that was 7 years ago. I received an invitation to her wedding during my last business trip shortly before I was supposed to return to the States. There was an engagement photo of her and her fiancé. He seemed kind of nervous to me, but if my younger sister wanted him and my parents checked on him, I was in no position to object. In her letter, she said that she and her new husband would move to the East Coast after their honeymoon. He worked in the sales department of the National Cosmetics Corporation, and his territory was the Northeast. Along with the wedding present, I wrote a short note explaining why I couldn't attend her wedding and wished her all the best. I really felt guilty about missing out on my younger sister's growing up years, her graduation, and now her marriage. I swore that when I retired, I'd be more like the brother I'd never been. Fast forward a few years, and I finally retired as a private with a salary of $6,500. Many years ago, I decided that the charm of the silence of the northern forest would become a cleanser for my tired bones. Most of all, I was interested in trying to regain any lost and wasted affection from my family. Before I could contact my parents, my father passed away. The email I received from my mother was short and to the point. My father died of a massive heart attack. She also sent an obituary from our local newspaper. There was nothing else special. She said he had been cremated and the funeral service had already taken place. She also told me that she would sell all their possessions and then move south to a retirement community run by their church in Florida. She didn't encourage me to visit in any way, so I guess she still wanted to distance herself. I thought back for a moment to our last years together. I felt the sudden loss of a family I had never really known or understood. After I was discharged from the Army, I applied to a real estate agency in the area where I wanted to move. I wanted privacy, so I settled on a large plot of several hundred hectares with an old farmhouse and several outbuildings in the center. The house was bigger than I wanted or needed, but the owners couldn't wait to sell it. So I bought the old house along with 80 hectares of woodland for less than 100,000. I decided I couldn't make a mistake, so I put down the cash and signed the papers. The house was in poor but habitable condition. The previous owners didn't spend a lot of money on modern upgrades, so I had a clean slate when I took over the renovation. Everything should have disappeared. The house was now mostly finished. I had a new and modern kitchen. The electrical wiring and plumbing were new. The walls and floors in each room have been redecorated. I even tore down the wall in the bedroom to equip a bathroom for the owner. Now there were 3 bedrooms upstairs with 2 bathrooms. The ground floor also had its own full bathroom. My house was mostly finished, but the one thing I wanted the most was missing: a family that will turn this place into a home. As much as I liked the quiet and peaceful countryside of this area, I couldn't have chosen a worse area of the country to look for a wife. That was about to change now. It was early evening when a fairly used and battered pickup truck with a rental trailer attached slowly drove into my yard. My sister Carrie was finally here. She sat in the truck for more than a minute before the door finally opened. We talked briefly on the phone, so I knew she was divorcing her husband and moving here. I also knew that she was moving from the East Coast, but I didn't realize that she was moving here as well. The truck door creaked loudly when she opened it, and the foot slipped off the truck. I went over to see if she needed any help, but before I could open my mouth, I heard a screech, and a tornado of red hair flew at me. "Petey, oh my God, it's you." She rushed at me with everything she had, and when she got to me, she jumped on me like a spider monkey. I had to do my best not to fall when this 60-kilogram whirlwind of red hair, arms, and legs literally stuck to my body. She started kissing me all over my face, while tears of joy rolled down her cheeks. "Oh my God, Petey, I'm so happy to finally see you again. You'll never know how much I've missed you. Please tell me that we will never break up again. You're never going to leave me again, are you?" "No, Buxom, I live here now. My travel days are over. We will never part again. So I can stay? Forever?" I should have known what she was asking before I answered. "Of course, forever if you want." "Oh, Petey, I love you so much." Carrie covered my face with kisses again, squeezing my neck. I was starting to feel a little uncomfortable with our close proximity. I mean, she was literally tied to me, with her arms around my neck and her legs around my waist. "Let me look at you. I haven't seen you since you were 5. She posed briefly in the pose of a model, then turned around. She was wearing a light green summer dress. It ended just above her knees. She was about 170 centimeters tall. "You're beautiful, Carrie. Probably the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." I blurted out. "Oh, Pete, I'm a mess. I've been traveling almost nonstop since I left New York. I only slept for a short time in the front seat in a recreation area on the highway," she said. "I think you're beautiful, Carrie. Do you need help with your stuff? It's getting late, and one thing you'll learn here is that mosquitoes rule the night." She laughed and said that she only had 1 suitcase for tonight, but when she unloaded her trailer, there would be a lot more. I dragged her suitcase into the living room, and she grabbed my hand and said, "Show me your house, Pete." I took her on a tour of the lower floor while she oohed and awed at everything I was doing. Carrie was particularly impressed with the new kitchen. "Oh, Pete, I'm going to have so much fun cooking for you. Wait until you try my meatloaf." When we went upstairs, I showed her the bedrooms, my master room, and finally the bathroom, which I built from scratch. The room was huge, with a shower cubicle measuring 3 by 3 meters, covered with glass. The shower had several shower heads built into the ceiling and walls. I even made a footstool so my wife could shave her legs in case I ever get married. It cost me a lot of money, but it was worth every penny, as I thought. I also turned on the heater, as winters can be brutal here. I complimented the room with a huge, bubbling hot tub, a long dressing table with a full-length mirror, and a combined toilet bidet. Carrie had never seen a bidet and told me about it. When I explained what they are and how they are in most bathrooms in Europe and how it works, she was momentarily confused. And then she understood. "Are you saying that this is to keep the woman fresh? Won't you wipe yourself with toilet paper anymore?" I suddenly felt awkward talking about something so personal with Carrie. I like it. Would you mind if I took a shower to freshen up? I haven't had time to clean up for 2 days, so I'm a little mature, she said, lifting her elbow to sniff her armpit. Oh, yes, of course, use it, I said hastily, when she went to the toilet and sat down, covering her legs with a dress. My face turned red as I headed for the door. Pete, could you bring me my suitcase too? I want to put on something clean after the shower, she said, getting up from the toilet. I turned away as I left the bathroom. My God, how my little sister has changed since I left my parents' house. I thought. I couldn't believe that the same parents who were so strict and controlling of me had raised this uninhibited young woman who was in my bathroom. Shaking my head, I promised myself to talk to her about it as I picked up her suitcase from the hallway. When I went to my bathroom, I heard water running in the shower. Not wanting to embarrass Carrie, I knocked before announcing my return. I opened the door to put the suitcase inside. Knock, knock, here are your things. Is there anything you'd rather eat? We're too far from the city for delivery, but if you want something special, I could run into the city. If not, maybe we could go to a restaurant? There's not much here except for family-style restaurants. Or we could eat at home. Your choice. I couldn't help myself as my gaze shifted to the glazed shower stall. I could barely see my sister's body through the steam as she rinsed her hair. Let's have dinner at home tonight, Pete. I'm really tired of the trip. Besides, I want to get to know my brother again. Is this normal? That's fine with me. I'm going down the stairs. Call me if you need anything. All right, Pete. I took another quick look at my sister through the fog and left the room. About 30 minutes had passed when I heard Carrie enter the kitchen. I was making sandwiches for us and had my back to her when she came into the room. It's good that I installed a water heater at the request of my sister. With a normal type of shower, you would run out of hot water while taking a shower, I said before turning around. I turned to face my sister and fell silent. Her hair was wrapped in a towel, and she was wearing only a t-shirt. Sis, are you comfortable enough? Do you even have a robe? My gaze finally shifted to my sister's face. Of course I have a robe, Pete. He's in my trailer somewhere. Am I shocking my cute older brother? I didn't want to do that. It's just that I feel so comfortable around you. Are the sandwiches ready? I'm so hungry right now. What is it? She asked, sitting down on a stool at my kitchen table. Of course. What would you like to drink, Carrie? I have beer or water. Tomorrow, when you're settled in, we can go grocery shopping if you want anything. Beer is great, Petey, she said, biting into the roast beef sandwich I'd made. I opened 2 beers and handed her a glass. No glass, big brother. She took a long sip from the bottle. Damn it, that's good. There is nothing better than a cold one after a long hot shower. We sat quietly across from each other at the counter and ate hastily. I was curious about what happened to Carrie's marriage, but I also wanted our reunion to be as painless as possible, so I kept quiet about her personal affairs. But I really wanted to know about our parents. Carrie, I'm so sorry that I missed your growing up. If it wasn't for Mom and Dad and their control methods, I probably would have found time to visit them. I remember getting your graduation photo. You looked so beautiful. I showed you to the whole squad. I almost got into a fight after a guy said some creepy thing about you. After that, I never shared your photo with anyone else. When I heard from Mom that you were engaged and saw your engagement photo, I got depressed because you grew up and I missed all those years spent with you. You can't imagine how worthless I felt as a brother. Don't apologize, Pete. I know what Mom and Dad could be like. In fact, they tried to pin this holier-than-thou shit on me until I found out about their true lifestyle. Did you know that our mother had an affair almost the entire time she was married to our father? My shocked face told Carrie that I didn't know. Of course you can't know. No one except their small church group knew. I suspect that all the parishioners, except our father, knew all these years that Mom was the preacher's personal little traitor. I also think Dad didn't die of a heart attack. Well, maybe so, but I think he just abandoned his marriage and died of a broken heart when he found out about it. His mom told him she was moving into a church-owned retirement home in Florida with her preacher boyfriend. She told him that if he wanted to stay in the North, he could, but she would not leave her man. Even if the Pope moves in with her, the priest will live with her, and she will sleep with whoever she wants. She never gave Dad a choice. Live with her as a cuckold husband or live apart while she was openly playing in bed with her boyfriend. My reaction was predictable. Are you saying that our mother also had this affair while I was growing up? Without a doubt. By the way, guess who my donor is? Carrie hesitated for a moment. Yes, you guessed it. He's a good old preacher. When I was growing up, I never noticed, but my hair is the same shade of red as his. I've never had a DNA test done, but the evidence was pretty convincing. I wouldn't be surprised either if Dad wasn't your donor. Carrie took the last bite, chewed in silence for a minute, and washed it down with a last sip of beer. So, you're my stepsister at best? We really have the same mother. That's right, but now my name is different. No one here knows me. As far as everyone here knows, I'm your old friend from the Far East. We connected to the internet again after you left the army. Carrie, what are you talking about? Man, Petey, you live here alone, right? Yes. Do you want to live alone? Or did you renovate this huge house just for yourself? I was going to look for someone to start a family with and eventually grow old together. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. The range of likely candidates in these parts is a little small, and I was busy reconstructing. I was worried about the direction in which our conversation was developing. So you really want a family? Of course. How many children would you like? I don't know. At least two of them. A boy and a girl. I've always dreamed of playing ball with my son and pampering my little princess. Carrie got up from her stool, spread her arms wide, and said, "Tadam. I'm ready to start whenever you're ready." Carrie, you say what you want with me. You and me? I was definitely slurring my tongue at that moment. Isn't that too fast, big brother? Okay, here's my plan. By the way, I've had 600 miles to think about it. You and I are both single, right? Yes. You need someone to make your home your own. You know, like cleaning, cooking, chopping firewood, having an intelligent conversation, making love. Carrie, you're my little sister. My blood. At that moment, I was sweating. So, who's going to know we're related? We have different names. If we don't try to get married, no one will suspect anything. Cohabitation of two people is not uncommon these days. We have no family resemblance. You're tall and attractive, and I'm short and petite. We're just stepbrothers. Without a blood or DNA test, no one would have suspected anything. Is this worse than what our mother did to our father? She's been cuckolding him for almost 40 years. She had two children with other men besides her husband. She and our father took my older brother to God knows where. 20 years, Petey, 20 years that I've lost with you because of that selfish fool. Tears were streaming down Carrie's face. If there was one thing that touched me, it was a woman's tears. That was my weak spot, my Achilles heel. I couldn't calmly look at a woman in tears. All right, Carrie, calm down. I didn't say no, did I? I said moving to hug my sister. So you're saying yes? She looked up hopefully. Tears were still streaming down her pretty face. I looked at her hopeful face. Good. Of course you can stay, but I'll have to think about making love. Agreed? Carrie jumped on top of me again, snuggling the same way she did when she first got here. It's a deal, she whispered. Damn, I thought. We finished our sandwiches and took another bottle of beer. Even in summer, the nights here could be cool, so I lit a fire in the fireplace and we spread a thick blanket on the floor in front of the fire. Carrie lay down on her back. Carrie asked me about the places I served and the people I met. Finally, she asked me about my two marriages. Carrie doesn't have much to tell. Number one was a mistake from the very beginning. She grew up near New York City. Her name was Bragg. I met her at an after-work party, and that night we met. She was good in bed, so I started considering her as a suitable wife. The problem was that I was often away from home, and she wasn't too picky about who she shared her bed with. The Army is a very cohesive group. None of us like it when our spouse goes astray, so there is always someone who looks out for us when we leave the country. We had only been married for 6 months when I was sent to the sandbox for a year. By the time I got back, I had names, dates, addresses, hundreds of photos, and hours of videos. She didn't even try to deny anything. When she was handed the divorce papers, she signed them without even looking at them, and then left the room with her then boyfriend. I never saw her again. I was sent back to the service when the divorce became final. Number two was a young local girl. I was back in the sandbox. Men in her village, including her male relatives, tortured her and then stoned her to death for allowing herself to be defiled. Women are treated differently there than here. They are considered chattels and treated like slaves. All of them have a lower social level than any man. The richest wife is considered inferior to the lowest man, a sheep shepherd. Returning to my future wife, I will say that I saved her at gunpoint and took her back to the base with me. She was in pretty bad shape, but I took care of her in my room, and in the process, I fell in love with her. I was so lonely, and she was so needy that we just got along. When she was able to move around, I asked her to marry me. It took me forever to get permission from the army to marry a foreign citizen, but in the end, I did, and we said our vows. We were so happy and so in love. I was scheduled to rotate to the States next week when she disappeared while I was on patrol. The next day, they found her body in a garbage pit. I tried to get the local authorities to arrest someone, but no one cared about her. That's who they said she was. My God, Petey, this is such a sad story. Carrie came over to hug me. I was lying on my back when she wrapped me in her arms. I pushed my sister away from me so as not to create an awkward moment. Petey, you don't have to pull away from me. I'm already a big girl, and if I don't want something, I can say no. I know that, but I don't want to embarrass you or myself, for that matter. Carrie, now that I've told you about myself, tell me what happened between you and the squirrel. Oh, what kind of squirrel? I laughed. That was my nickname for your hubby. When I saw your engagement photo, I thought he looked kind of weird, as in an unstable state. Anyway, tell me about your marriage. Carrie lay down on her back next to me and closed her eyes. I turned on my side next to my sister and rested my head on my hand. We were so in love with each other from the very beginning. At least I was like that. He? Not so much. He was a gambler. I think he had a few girlfriends scattered all over the East Coast. I found out that when he was on one of his long trips, he almost never slept alone. Some of his girlfriends were also married. Go figure it out. Carrie sniffed and wiped away her tears. I never knew exactly how many regular girlfriends he had, but even one was too many. Sometimes I caught a strange scent of perfume on his clothes. What finally made me realize how sloppy he can be is that I saw some selfies that one of his girlfriends sent him when he was in the shower after a trip. Then I rummaged through his phone and found some photos of him with some girl. There were actually a few girls there. When he got out of the shower, I kicked him out of the house. The divorce was very bitter and too expensive. When we finally agreed on the terms, I left with only a few things and $5,000 in cash. I gave him the house for sale, but since we only paid for it for a year, there wasn't much to share. I traded my little Honda for something that could pull a trailer. When the divorce was final, I booted up and called my big, handsome brother. And now I'm just living a good life with my older brother, and I'm going to live happily ever after. Carrie sniffed again, then laughed bitterly. I hugged her, and she put her head on my chest and cried softly over her loss. I was in a difficult position. I've always lived alone, but not now. My sister has just moved into my newly renovated house in hopes of becoming my soulmate. My sister was even ready to give birth to my children. Before she arrived this morning, I hadn't even seriously thought about the fact that I didn't have a date. Now I had a really hot woman who was ready to be my life partner. The only problem was that she was my sister or stepsister, according to her story about our mother's affair with the donor. To be honest, I was not categorically against this idea, and that was my predicament. Why wasn't I there? I have come to a decision. I was still hugging her while she was crying silently. We'll always have to be careful with other people, you know. I can't call you sis, and you can't call me big brother when we're around other people. I began. Carrie looked up at me, and tears began to flow down her cheeks. I know, Petey. Anyway, I've always called you Pete or Petey. However, we really need to come up with a story. I'd like to be the estranged girl from your past. We broke up many years ago due to frequent breakups, and then reconnected online after you left the army. Since I recently got divorced, I can honestly say that I contacted you after my divorce became final. We are now reuniting after several years of separation. It could be a story about a long-lost love. In fact, this is not far from the truth. She thought about it, smiling again. She wiped her tears with her t-shirt. I spoke again, looking into her eyes. Just to be clear, are you ready to live with me as my life partner? To start a family? To give birth to our children? To have and protect in sickness and in health from this day forward? Are you ready to share my life with me, as a man and his wife would do? Oh yes, Petey, I will. You know you're too hot for someone like me. Most people will wonder how I managed to persuade such a young woman to live in isolation in these northern forests. Carrie giggled. Leave it to me to worry about it. If anyone gets too curious, I'll just tell them it's none of their business. Carrie knew she made that impression on men, and since her brother was a man, judging by my bulge, I was a big man. More than her ex. If you don't want to make love, you need to stop squirming. She stopped moving. Haven't you been following this conversation, mister? Who said anything about not wanting to make love? I just swore my loyalty to you forever. We're going to start a family. In case they didn't teach you that in the army, I'll tell you. To conceive children, you need to make love. Good. Now I was playing along with Carrie. Having served in the army for 20 years and often showered with countless men, I have come to the conclusion that I am not the biggest stallion in the paddock, but also not the smallest. Before you get upset, I know how big the average male appendage should be. I also know from personal observation that the men in my unit tended to be of a larger build. It's just a random observation here. We never really appreciated each other. It's fine if you say so, although my ex was only half as big as you. It scares Petey a little, Carrie said timidly. Carrie, I promise I won't hurt you, but you have to trust me. I suddenly remembered the promise I made when they parted for the last time. Carrie, do you remember what I told you when you were 5? The promise I made to you the day I left? Do you remember the pinky oath? Yes, Pete, I remember. I swear to you that, as your brother and now your mate, I will never hurt you. Never. I swear by the little finger. Having said that, I hooked Carrie's little finger. She put her finger in mine. Petey, I think you're going to make me a woman again tonight. Carrie was getting used to the idea of us making love. Why did I suddenly feel like a bride all of a sudden? She said softly and slowly shook her head. Finally, after a few minutes, she calmed down. I thought she had fallen asleep, but then she opened one eye and looked at me. Petey, you just made me the happiest woman in the world. You're a fantastic lover. My sister Carrie, the sister, for whom I had not had the slightest feelings until that day, was now the woman who would occupy my bed for the rest of my life. Since then, life has been kind to me. I had the perfect match my sister Carrie. She conceived our first child the first night I spent with her. 9 months after that night, she gave birth to a baby weighing 3 kilograms. We named the little girl Ashley. For 2 years, we have been blessed with our son Jordan. On Carrie's 30th birthday, she blessed us with twins for the last time, Dale and Debbie. We discussed this in advance, and at the age of 43, I no longer wanted to produce children. Carrie agreed with our decision. We felt blessed and vowed to focus on our little brood. No one ever found out about our little secret. We were never officially married, so there was never any reason to find out our ancestry. We have been living in harmony for 20 years now. Carrie is 45 now, and in my opinion, she is as beautiful as the day she got out of that old truck.